coaches, how do you move one seat over from the assistant coach role to the head coach role? And if you're already a head coach, how do you maximize the growth and contribution of your assistant coaches? It's episode 22 of the Don't Tell Me, Show Me podcast, where we uncover our methods and the ways in which we support coaches to make that step up. You could go from assistant to head coach. You could go from head coach at a lower level to a head coach or assistant at a higher level. How do you progress your career and move one seat over? Right, Alan, it's you and me without Mark this week, so we've got a chance to digress. We can go anywhere we want without Mark pulling out the pineapple pun on us. So we've worked together before. We've coached together. I've been your assistant, and we do a lot of work together also helping coaches take that one step up. Particularly, we work with female coaches, and we work with a lot of younger coaches, male and female, to help them progress. It's a huge step. Like, it's only one step from assistant to head coach, but it may as well be a whole nother category.
Yeah, and I think it's a great opportunity, Simon, isn't it? When you get that promotion, I've been through that process where you've gone from an assistant to a head coach at the national team level, and that's really exciting because it's such a privilege to actually coach a country, and then to be holding the reins to that. But it's also quite scary. And I think, like, when you get offered those positions or the opportunity presents itself, you just go for it. You think about it like, yeah, why wouldn't I? Of course. But the reality is actually it's such a big step. It's a journey into the unknown if you've never done it before. And we've talked about the change curve on this podcast recently, a couple of episodes ago. And I think the change curve is a great example of actually the journey of going from an assistant coach into a head coach, where you go into it full of optimism, but you really don't know all the hurdles you have to jump and all the stuff that the head coach stayed awake at night for. You didn't do that as an assistant. You slept and you went to bed thinking about, thinking about breakfast the next morning. And little did I know that a couple of doors down on the same corridor of the hotel, the head coach was awake pulling his hair out around today's loss. So yeah, it's a bit of an uninformed optimism as you make that change. Soon to learn.
Yeah. And then when you first move into those responsible head coach roles where there's a bit of pressure on you to perform, you can get into that dip really, really quickly, can't you? So once you become more aware of the challenges, you go into that sort of known pessimism where you're like, it's really lonely at that point. Like, it's really lonely. And I remember trying to do too much, changing things too quickly. Not real. I thought I was sure what my philosophy was, but it's not until, that Mike Tyson expression, it's not until you get punched in the face that, that you actually find out whether these ideas really work.
I was just thinking of that same phrase, actually, so you beat me to it. But I guess... So what's this, like, I'm going straight to solution mode. I'm such a head coach. I've gone straight into solution mode. So what do you do? What does an assistant coach do who suddenly gets the job of, I'm going to be a head coach, and that journey starts in 2 weeks' time? Like, what do? You go in with all ideas, and I think you have to go through it, Simon. I really think you have to go through a difficult journey because the domains are so different. Like, what's the old saying? Heavy is the head that wears the crown. And when it comes to being an assistant, when it comes to going from an assistant to a head coach, that saying has never been more true. And I think you have to go through it, and you have to go through those struggles, and you have to go through those. The thing I will say, and the thing I will always challenge, is you don't have to go through it alone, and you don't have to navigate this by yourself, because I think that's where harm creeps in, and those sleepless nights affect you and have a ripple effect on your surroundings, i.e. your family and your social life and your health. I think it can go very extreme and very quickly as well, which is why I'm really enjoying the work I'm doing at the moment, Simon, around supporting the coaches on our membership group. They go through different stages of this journey throughout the year because they're in head coaching positions, most of them, if not all of them. And their challenges are weekly, but they're just in different forms, and they come at different levels as well. But I feel like I'm always there on the sideline with them because they can reach out, we can have a conversation, and they're getting it out. They're releasing some pressure just by having the conversation with somebody who's not affiliated to the team as well. So it's really interesting to see how just that aspect alone can alleviate some pressures that you feel, these pressures and challenges that you have to navigate that are unknown because they might be first time challenges, for example, as opposed to sharing it with your now new assistant coaches who actually may be filtered with their thoughts and responses to you.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of political strategy. So not who's right and who's wrong, but who's winning and who's losing. Because I think you can learn a lot from how people manage those situations and the way they try to get narratives to take hold. And I remember listening to one podcast recently, and it was this brilliant analogy of what it's like to be a prime minister or president of a country. And this person was saying it's basically 50% ceremonial. You have to represent the country at all these things, and sometimes you feel like you're completely wasting your time, but the role requires that. There's nobody else. You can't send the next, but you can't actually send the vice president or the deputy prime minister. People want that one figurehead. And the other 50% is making decisions that nobody else wants to make. Basically, if a decision was easy, somebody would have done it by now. So by the time it reaches your desk, it's because that decision is really hard, and it's because nobody else below you wanted to make that decision. And I think that works for the head coach. Like a lot of it is representing the team, representing the club or the school. It's about going into stakeholder meetings with people higher up. It's about athletic directors, performance directors, sponsors, boosters, parents. It's about representing your team and your organization. And then the other half is, well, any problems that the assistant coaches couldn't solve themselves and they bring to you. So by definition, seem to be in problem solving mode almost all the time.
What do you think the vulnerabilities are with that position or the expectation of I'm the problem solver for, you mentioned a range of things there. And if you take it, if you look at two different levels, you got the pro coach who's got probably a staff of 25 that they have to manage, from sports science and medicine to psychologists to even PR people to an
Yeah.
extent. And then on the other end of the spectrum or continuum, you have junior coach who's probably parents is the main thing they have to deal with and be answerable to, because clearly they're in local parentis very often with their kids when they're in away games, training sessions, and that you get to see the parents in the home games, and that's once every 2 weeks, 3 weeks potentially. So what do you think the vulnerabilities are there in that space when you become that decision maker?
Well, you've hit on it there, decision making. So what's the cognitive difference between being an assistant coach and a head coach? It's the amount of decisions that you have to make. So what process are you going through to make decisions? Are you self-aware around how you make decisions? Do you recognize when something is interfering with your ability to make a good decision? Some cognitive bias in some way, some emotion you're bringing to it, a lot of sunk cost bias, for example, I think with head coaches not wanting to make changes. So assistant coach doesn't make many decisions unless, of course, they've been empowered to by the head coach, which I think we can come on to, but I think that is best practice, is spreading the decision-making load, because every one of us has bias in how we make our decisions. So if you concentrate the amount of decision-making into one person, your team, your organization is going to reflect the bias of that one decision maker. And when I think about back to myself, I didn't move one seat over, I moved one seat back, because in large part, as I've got older, head coach I found to be not quite conducive with my personal life. And so, like when you took over in our club, I was the head coach, and so I stepped one seat in the opposite direction into the assistant role. And when I look back, I'm like, well, there was all sorts of bias that I didn't know I was bringing into my decision making, particularly how I relate to people. And I think if you don't have that balance within your coaching team and you aren't self-aware about how each of you relates to people, I think you can have some real problems there. So it's about that responsibility and the quality of the decisions that you make. I think that's one of the biggest differences between head coach and assistant.
And going back to something you said there at the start of that, even if you do empower the assistant coaches to make decisions, the outcome of those decisions will always reflect back on the head coach anyway. You can't hide Like the assistant coach could be the one making the subs or leading the tactical defense timeout. And in the last play of the game, I mean, it's really brilliant, Simon. Sorry to go off on a side tangent here. I'm seeing more and more of head coaches pass the tactics boards to assistant coaches
Yep.
now more than ever. I witnessed two over the weekend. These are two professional games. Really caught me by surprise. And actually, what I perceive as the third assistant coach was on the tactics board in late game situation. And it was a defensive tactic, I believe, judging on the context of the game. But even so, if that goes wrong, all coming back on the head coach's shoulder, regardless. And obviously, you empower the person, so you still have to make a decision. Absolutely. Something I want to pull you in the direction of judgment. The just being in that seat, or very much not in the seat. You're standing, first of all, so you're visible. And you're constantly visible. As soon as you walk in the arena, that's the head coach. The label, you just wear it above your head, visibly to everybody, metaphorically speaking. But the judgment that coaches have to deal with about their status and the scoreboard being a huge impact in that, assistant coach doesn't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges I run into supporting coaches every single year, is how they feel about themselves based on how the team performed this weekend.
Yeah, and you're never immune to it. Never immune to it. I mean, my team won a big game on the weekend. It was an elimination game. We were underdogs. We were on the road against a really kind of battle-hardened kind of veteran team who usually win at home, and I feel better about myself this week, or at least I feel better about my coaching. Prior to that, I thought I was on the right track with the team, but I didn't have a lot of outcome evidence yet to support that. So this is like validation that I'm on the right track with the team, and I feel that. And I host a podcast talking about coaching and coach psychology, and I'm not immune to this, and I've been doing it for 20 odd years, and I'm not in a position like my performance. My position is not under threat. I'm really secure in the organization. I'm not about to get fired if we play badly just because of my status and position in the organization. So I don't have that kind of existential threat hanging over me, and I still feel it. It's just human, isn't it?
It is human. And I guess the key is, how can you get yourself to a point at your level, at my level, at the pro level, even though you could be up for the chopping board, as they say. And you look at the NBA now, like you got coach of the year being sacked the following year, 2-3 weeks into the season. But how can you, whatever level you're used to, because this isn't about you now suddenly becoming a WNBA head coach and you need to be feeling the same way. You're going to feel different pressures. But 10 years coaching in the WNBA, Simon, I'm sure you could navigate it to a space where you can feel a sense of comfort to the level you feel now, feel a sense of vulnerability to the level you feel now, and be comfortable with it. But how do you get from that space of, I'm really nervous, my status is on the line, we're performing badly, this reflects bad on me, the silent voice in your head, it's in the background, you can just hear it in the distance. How do you get from that to, yeah, we're performing badly, I'm coaching badly, all right, get over it, what's next? And you can still go home and sleep at night, not be awake at 4 a.m. and think about this. For me, the challenge is this will never go away, like you said, and because we're human, of course it won't go away. If people say it does, they're lying, in my opinion, because you're human. Everyone's got some sort of sensitivity level or string that can be pulled upon. But how do you get to a place where you can park it, you can deal with it, you can control the negative feelings? So when you park the car and you walk into your house, it's left outside. And this is a space, I've got to be very careful, Simon, because I've been on this podcast before saying I'm very comfortable that I've gotten to a space where I can just go, do you know what? I coached really badly. And I'm talking national team or domestic league at the moment. I didn't coach well. It is what it is, right? Let me think about what I could have done better. Boom, that's it, right? I'm on it. I've got my plan for the next game. And I can go in home, play with the dogs, and be present with Esther. And I'm there. But I've got to be very careful. If I was coaching in a higher level, in a pro league where there's more exposure, where the games are on television, they critique you on social media heavily. It's many eyes are getting on it. Would I be the same? No, I'd have to work on getting to that space again. I'd have to work on getting to that space where I can park it outside in the car and leave it before I come into the house. I think that's the place, and that's the challenge for coaches.
Yeah, you're in a position where you've got more knowledge about the inner workings of the team of anybody who might be judging you. So, by definition, you've got access to more data than anybody else. So you do know better than anybody else, really. That doesn't mean that aren't others that can come in and offer a perspective, but they can't sit in your seat. So in some ways, there can be some confidence taken from just the realization that I'm just going to make the best decisions I can with the data I have available to me at that time. And if the outcome is different, then fine. I'll live with that. It's process over outcome, which I think comes back to that concept of self-awareness, understanding how you make decisions, understanding how you relate to others. The more we know about ourselves, the more self-aware we can be there. And then you can, because that self-awareness can lead to self-forgiveness as well. Like, oh, I got that wrong with a player, that interaction. That's because I have a tendency in relationships towards this type of way of relating to people. I have a tendency to avoid conflict, for example. So I got that wrong with a player. I left them too long and I didn't intervene when really I should have, and then they had a negative impact on others. Like if I can tell myself that story, then it gives me a chance to next time go, okay, it's uncomfortable. I avoid conflict, and I know I avoid conflict. This is conflict. This is one of the moments I avoid. Right, I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to step towards it. Or there was conflict at the game yesterday. Practice later on today. I know this is going to be uncomfortable for me, but I'm going to step forward and I'm going to go speak to that person who I had disagreement with or whatever. And I'm not going to enjoy that, but I'm going to feel a whole lot better afterwards. And
Mhm.
it's that self-awareness. It must be hard too for an assistant coach working for a head coach if the head coach lacks some of that self-awareness, doesn't actually see the impact they have on others. That's hard.
Massively, massively. And we both, being careful, could actually give loads of examples where we've worked with people who've been in that space, where the assistant coach, I've been in that space myself, where you find it difficult to align to your values, your beliefs on how to even interact with the team. And you're fighting your own values but yet trying to support, because that's another topic of conversation here we should really get into. What's an effective assistant? Because you're signed up to support that person. You signed up to support the head coach, and you signed up to be loyal and back the head coach, but also you signed up to actually challenge the head coach in an appropriate way at the appropriate time in the appropriate place. But once you're out in the public and you're in the changing room, it's if you're not aligning to the head coach at that point, then you haven't done your work behind the scenes, and that's really difficult because you talk now about sources of power, and you're talking about, like, I want to keep my job and I want to keep this role as the assistant, so I don't want to rock the boat. There's a lot of those. So then you drive home and you battle your own values and your own position and your own behavior as an assistant. I just want to circle back before we get onto that, Simon, because we may segue in there to some capacity. Self-awareness leads to self-forgiveness. Self-awareness leads to self-forgiveness. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful phrase. And I think a head coach repeating that to themselves could go a long way. But now it begs the question, how do you take yourself on a journey to enhance your self-awareness as a head coach? Thoughts? What are your thoughts on that?
Listen to really insightful podcasts. That could be that could be the first step.
Self-awareness or self-promotion? What are we talking about here?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of tools there. There's personality tests like Myers-Briggs or whatever you want to do. If you got a blue
Oh,
hat, a
you're
yellow
gonna
hat, or
really, you've really put your neck out here, Myers and Briggs, and we're gonna have some people up there coming against you on that one.
yeah.
Continue.
Oh, I'm not suggesting that necessarily. I mean, I, I raise it because some of those things can be really helpful if you go into them with your BS filter on, and and you just use them as a source of reflection, not a source, not a stamp, not a judgment, not a sense of identity. I think I'm a INTJ on the Myers-Briggs, but I don't walk around with like a sticker that with INTJ on it. Like it's not part of my identity. It's like, oh, that's useful. I resonate with that bit, but I disagree with this other bit. I'd start with an understanding of your strengths. So make lists of your strengths on and off the court, categorize those, then speak to people you trust, ask them what your strengths are, and ask the players if you've got that kind of relationship, if there's not going to be too much bias in their responses, and really focus on your strengths, particularly from your peers. Do you have a peer you trust who could tell you what they think your top 5 strengths are? And really narrow that down, get additional evidence for that. That would be step 1 for me. And then step 2 would be to then consider what's the shadow side of those strengths. So what's the impact if I overplay one of those strengths? Like you might be affiliative. People might say, yeah, you're a really nice guy. Everybody likes you. Like you get on with people, right? Okay, you do that. You're kind of effortless in the way you just connect with people, relate to them, and you get on with them. Okay, great. That's one of my strengths. Now think, okay, what's the shadow side of that? If I overplay that strength, well, that could lead to conflict avoidance, which means that things go unsaid, which means that a player might not get the feedback they really need. They might be negatively impacting on others. So my sense of affiliation is actually now going too far. I'm overusing that, and I actually need I need something else. I need a different psychological tool from my toolbox to remedy that situation. So yeah, strengths with an understanding of the shadow side of those strengths. That would be where I'd start.
You did a wonderful. I'll just share with the listeners. With our movement membership, you led a session last Sunday with them around strengths and stressors. And we didn't get to like just understanding your players' needs, and do you have the strengths to meet those needs, or is there somebody else or somebody you need to go to fill that gap until you develop that as a strength? I think that's really good, Simon, to share that with anyone listening. I think the question then it begs the question: well, how do you avoid bias? Because I want my strength to be this, so I'm going to say that's a strength, but I'm not sure. But yeah, it's a strength. So I would add to what you've said is, gather evidence of what your strengths are. Turn the camera on yourself. Like literally just record yourself coaching as much as you possibly can without being forensic about it, and just get a bit of an insight, because it surprises me, even with the length of time coaches have been coaching that we've worked with down through the years, turning the camera on themselves is very new, quite novel, and something that hasn't been done before. And some of these coaches are very experienced people, and coaching at a high level. So that's something I would strongly recommend. And again, if you did it for 20 minutes a week, it'd be amazing what you pick up over the course of a month as to how you're coaching and displaying your strengths, or starting to notice areas where there's an area for improvement.
Yeah, a question for the coaches listening. What do you find easy about coaching that other people find hard? If you want to identify your unique strengths, what do you find easier about coaching that other people find to be harder? So for me, I'm able to take like ideas and concepts from a wide range of sources and recognize patterns. So pattern recognition is something that I can do. I can take an idea from business modeling and apply it to sports coaching. So that's something like that when I'm in conversations with coaches, the kind of big picture, like, and how to piece it all together and then how to simplify it from there. I just seem to be able to do that. Like that's not through some sort of dedicated work that I've done. It just seems to be that my brain does that. So I find that a little bit easier than I think a lot of coaches that I've observed. But there are things obviously I find harder, like I mentioned conflict avoidance and things like that earlier on. Like your one observation I have of your coaching is you make communication, particularly in difficult moments and conflict moments, you make it look easy. I'm not suggesting you find it to be easy, but you definitely make it look easy. For somebody like me, I'm like, some of the conversations that you walk towards I know myself, I have previously walked away from, and I've seen other coaches walk away from that, whereas you just seem to walk towards difficult conversations effortlessly.
Yeah, I'm very aware as to why. I don't find it difficult, but I don't want to do it. That's the reality because it takes a lot of energy. And I know this is not a quick win and it's not a quick resolution often. But I also am aware that, yeah, I don't know. You've mentioned this a few times to me. Where does it come from? But I want to know. I want a level of authenticity around the way I coach. And if I'm going to be authentic with my coaching, I've got to deal with the difficult things that happen in front of me. There's a level of integrity that just won't allow me to walk away. And to be honest with you, sometimes Simon, that's become a bit of a weakness. I probably sometimes made a bigger deal out of it than it needed to be, just because I felt my interpretation was that there's a disconnect there. But then, in time, you realize actually I probably overcooked trying to resolve that. There wasn't that big a deal. But I hold a level of integrity around wanting to coach through a place of authenticity as much as possible. And I feel that's important for the receiver, the other person, as much as me as well. That in order, it's not going away. I got to show up next week. They're going to show up next week. So this problem ain't going to go away. And if it's not going to go away, let's deal with it. It's as simple as that, really. But I don't find it difficult, but I don't want to do it either.
Yeah, yeah, no, I feel you. Okay, we've got like 5 minutes left. Let's go rapid fire. So for
Sure.
the coaches listening, let's see how many tips we can share here on effective assistant coaching. You're coming at it from a head coach point of view. I'm coming at it from an assistant coach point of view. We don't have to go too deep into each of these. Like, let's go rapid fire, see how many points we can get across here for the coaches listening. If anyone's taking notes, or maybe you're going to hear 2 or 3 things that are like, oh, I can do that. Okay, so I'll go first. As an assistant coach in a game, look in the opposite direction of your head coach. So if your head coach is looking to the right, you look to the left. If your head coach is looking at the ball, you look off the ball, so that you get different data points and have a different perspective to your head coach, and can therefore bring new data and information to them. Over to
Brilliant.
you.
I'm going to go. Yeah, let's keep going like this. Let's
Yep.
spitball it. I'm going to go in a different direction. Be a continuous learner. Let's not get into how you be a continuous learner. Listen, observe, walk towards the stuff you're not good at, and equip yourself with the knowledge and understanding of the benefits of whatever it is you're learning.
Yeah, great. Okay. Assistant coach, monitor the bench. I know some assistants do this already, but I would do it a lot. And also, don't be scared to move. So this is basketball or any team sport where you have a bench along the side. Don't be scared to move. So monitor the bench, monitor what you hear them say. Don't like eavesdrop, but like just be aware of the vibes on the bench, and don't be afraid to get up and leave your seat. Locate. I sometimes just for 2-3 minutes just go sit at the far end of the bench just to get a different perspective and hear what's happening down there. So don't be nailed to your seat. Move and connect with people on the bench.
Great, love it. Communication, be clear, be concise with the message the head coach delivers. Don't be the message. Don't overcook the words you use, the amount of words. Be succinct, flight path, whatever the message is, deliver it, move on. Don't coach in paragraphs trying to cement your position and level of importance.
Don't coach in paragraphs. I love that. Okay, related to that, when you're the assistant coach and the head coach is talking, it's tempting to look at your head coach because you want to show respect. You want the players to be looking at the head coach, so you're like role modeling. Okay, I'm hanging on every word of the head coach. But if you can position yourself slightly differently, not not right next to the head coach. So if it's a halftime team talk, maybe don't stand right next to the head coach. Stand like just 2 or 3 meters either side so that you're not in other people's eye lines when they're looking at head coach. And don't look at the head coach when they're talking. Look at all the faces and check for visual cues about how the players are responding to what the head coach is saying. Are they doing head nods? Are they looking off? Are they tying their shoelaces? Just look for cues that somebody might not be engaging with that communication from the head coach. And then after that, as people are walking out, if there's 1 or 2 people, just check with them. Hey, did you get that? Because it may be that they knew exactly what the head coach was talking and they didn't need to make eye contact because they knew exactly what you were talking about. So they just didn't feel like they had to. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it might be. It might be that person's missed that information or is disconnecting.
Great. I'm going to quote a good friend of mine, Robbie McGinley, who's the head coach of the Center of Excellence in Australia, and I had the wonderful opportunity to spend 4 days with him in May. A wonderful host. He mentioned clean the weeds out of the garden as the assistants. So in any moment you can find, be it everyone arrives to practice 15 minutes early, there's extended water breaks, post-practice, take the players aside or player and help them develop their craft. The head coach is looking at the bigger picture. The head coach is coaching the style of play, the so on, so on. Find every opportunity you can when you're in the facility to help the players develop their individual craft. Don't wait to be told.
When I was coaching in New Zealand, when I was coming up, I remember some ideas coming out of Australia at the time. So this 20 years ago, something like that, maybe more. And I love this concept of coaching on the run, which is now quite common, I think, in Australia. I hear it quite a lot from coaches. And one of the really small things I picked up from that was coach the player at the back of the line. When you're the assistant coach, or well, in fact, I do this a lot as a head coach, but especially when you're the assistant coach, there's an activity set up, people are rotating through it, or you're going offense, defense, or whatever. Stand at the back where the players where the players are going to stand when they rotate off, and then as they come to you, ask a question, clarify something. If the head coach has given a player feedback and you're not sure they understand, check with them. Did you understand that? Got any questions? Blah blah blah. Coach at the back of the line. Don't pull somebody aside. That's different. Pulling somebody aside is different. I'm talking about people are rotating past you, so you're not preventing them from playing, because then you'll get resistance from that player if you're holding them back. Oh, I want to get back on the court or the field. Just as there might be 20 seconds as they're progressing through and they're about to rotate on, coach at the back of the line.
Brilliant. Assistant coaches, be careful of venting, ranting, commentating. Be objective and avoid those 3 things I said. Avoid venting, avoid ranting, avoid commentating while coaching. It's not helpful to your head coach. Be objective in what you see and embrace change. So things change often. Be ready to adapt, and just remember, none of this is permanent. Things change very radically in the coaching world.
Yeah, you're an assistant coach. That's different to being, say, an associate head coach, where maybe that associate head coach is thinking like a second head coach, and maybe that's your role in the group. Your role in the group is to think like a second head coach and check the first head coach. That's often when you've got lots of assistants. Or you're an assistant coach and yeah, your job is really quite different. You're not a mini a head coach, so don't view the game through the lens of the head coach. Okay, any final tips?
Yeah, well, I'll give one more. Ask permission first. Pull out your phone and record the head coach's pregame. You know where I'm going with this. Halftime and timeouts, and say, would you like to watch these back? And your head coach will thank you probably 6 years later.
That's like parenting. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I like it. That's a great way to finish. I'll finish with something. I'll take that idea of permission and take it slightly to one side. I wonder how many head coaches and assistants haven't actually had much of a conversation about how they interact with each other. They might have had a conversation about roles, technically, tactically, or you're focused on the offense or the defense or whatever, set pieces, whatever it is. But they haven't maybe had a conversation about how should we interact with each other. So as the assistant coach, I'd encourage you to ask your head coach, okay, in a game, how much communication do you want from me? What types of communication do you want? When do you want it? I think if you haven't asked that question, the head coach probably find that quite refreshing. Head coach might never have thought about it. And then you'll get parameters for your involvement, and then you can stay in your lane because you know what your lane is because you know the parameters. So don't wait for your head coach to define your relationship. Go ask them. Well, it doesn't have to be a big heart-to-heart existential conversation. It's just, hey, when do you want me to communicate? Where? How often? And I'll fit in with that.
Great. Love it. Absolutely love it.
All right, we're just past the half-hour mark. We wanted to keep this really practical for the coaches, but we meandered into some philosophical, deeper topics in the middle there. But hopefully, we finished on some really important topics. It's getting dark where I am. If you're watching on YouTube, it seems like I'm in Scotland and it's the middle of the day, but hey, I'm still losing the light. So thanks to everybody for listening and watching. As always, comment, like, subscribe, all of that. Drop us a comment. Connect with us on LinkedIn or Twitter. Feel free to DM us and get in touch and ask a question, and we'll be more than happy to discuss it further. Thanks, Alan.
Brilliant. Thank you, Simon.